I sent you to the royal wedding with simple instructions. Don't cause an international incident.
How's it going?
You've done some pretty stupid things in your day, but this...
Takes the cake?
I initially read the script. I thought it was incredibly charming. I thought that there was a lightness to it, but definitely a multi-dimensionalism to Henry that was particularly fascinating. I find the notion of playing someone who is very trapped by circumstance and their upbringing to be very interesting to play as an actor. So the script was incredible. And then, of course, Matthew Lopez, our director, coming off the back of the success of The Inheritance, was a major draw. And the fact that he wanted me so early on to play this character was definitely one of the aspects involved in choosing to pursue the project.
How did I prepare to play Alex? I watched a lot of West Wing. Like, a lot of the West Wing. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Sullivan's Travels, Bringing Up Baby. It Happened One Night. A lot of old Hollywood comedies is what I watched. And, I mean, the West Wing really puts you in the world, because we're here. We're in the White House right now.
Henry is very much the catalyst, I think, in a lot of ways. 2/3 of the movie is told from Alex's perspective, and 1/3 is told from Henry's. But Alex is a much freer human being, and I think the world he lives in is much more accepting of who he is as a person, whereas this sort of archaic nature of the institution that Henry is born into and has to present himself in every single day means that it's almost impossible for him to be who he is. So the story moves forward in the sense that it isn't as simple as them just loving each other. They are not two normal people. Loving someone is complicated, and being who you really are in Henry's world is very complicated.
Alex has a really big character arc throughout the film. So he starts as a very immature, privileged, chip on his shoulder kind of kid who, is forced to grow up after this cake incident. And it's really nice to watch him grow throughout, the 2 hours or so that we get to watch Henry and Alex be together. So he's gregarious. He's wants to be in politics. He wants to be his mom. He wants to be his dad. He just really wants to prove to the world that he is someone.
There is very much an enemies to lovers book trope, which I know people love. They're both very principled, I think, in their own beliefs. Really, the enemies. The feeling of them being enemies was really born out of misunderstanding in a lot of ways. They don't realize that they actually share quite a lot in common, and they are very different as people as well. But I think the more time they're sort of forced to spend with each other because of the cake incident, that is really the catalyst of the whole movie. Just the more they realize that they are very good for each other in a lot of ways, and they complement each other in a lot of ways.
You can hate Prince Henry all you want.
My NDA's bigger than yours, I want you to know that. You're wearing lifts. Know that too, sweetheart.
You better act like the sun shines out of his ass and you have a vitamin D deficiency.
Have you thought of what you might say to convince the world that we're actually friends? I love hanging out with this guy.
Alex and Henry start their relationship at this climate conference in the film, and Alex is kind of snubbed by Henry. So Alex has this kind of preconceived notion of him that he's a jerk and he wants nothing to do with him. Whereas Henry had just lost his father and you just didn't want to be in public. So Alex has kind of harbored this resentment toward him. So then when he has to go to the wedding, he doesn't bring his best self. He brings like this 12-year-old version of himself who wants to be in competition with Henry. The cake incident happens, and then he has a strict talking to by his father. So after that, when Alex has to fly back and do damage control, is when their relationship starts, I would say, like the good stuff. Alex realizes that Henry's not this monster that he's thought he was the whole time.
I think this film is unique in its subject matter. I think it feels very timely. I think it feels very current. I think people will feel very represented in it. I think their genre-wise is plenty to like for different audiences. There is so much humor within this movie. There is so much heartbreak within this movie. I think really we have produced a very much a spectrum of real life, whilst having the sort of the fantastical and the romantic within it as well. I think movies that are able to blend real, raw humanity, whilst at the same time feeling kind of whimsical and romantic, as I said, are just so watchable. And I feel and I hope we have done that.
Don't cause an international incident.
Uma's great. She really is. She just has this presence when she walks into the room. I was definitely intimidated when I found out who was playing my mom, just because I am a huge fan, obviously, like who isn't? And I didn't know what to expect. And I was pleasantly surprised that she came in and she was so lovely and giving and, wants to connect right away. And, like whether it was with a hug, with just touching my hand, talking briefly, we really had a short period of time that we were able to kind of build that relationship for screen. So we had lunch together, and we just, she's such a professional, and she makes you feel safe. And like we there's a few scenes where we go like head to head, and she didn't treat me like that younger actor. She really treated me just like, like I'm here to work, you're here to work, like let's go. And she did. And like she would improv at me, and just, when the camera was on me, for her to, get like a different reaction out of me, or like, we would try different stuff throughout. And she's just so skilled on a set. She knows her lenses, she knows her lighting, she knows her marks. Like she's such a competent actor.
The characters we have in this movie, I hope can be totem poles for change, and can act as inspiration to a lot of young people watching these films. I feel like a lot of young people, marginalized people, will be very seen within this movie. I hope we do them justice. But I hope it is a portrayal of an idealistic image of the US, and I hope it can have a certain resonance with people.
This film kind of transcends the coming out story. I think Matthew really focused a lot, and we had lots of conversations about this. It was not focusing on that coming out moment, not calling it that, and just more of having a conversation with those that are near and dear to you. So it's less of an event. And again, like we just start normalizing this in society and like in the home. So it's unique in that way. And I'd also say it's unique because in a lot of LGBTQ plus stories, they're not happy endings. There's usually tragedy involved. And I think that this film kind of subverts that in a way where we think all is lost, but then by the end, we're rooting for these two guys to be together and to be kind of like the poster men for what the world can be.
So in love.
What I meant when I said,
yourself, Your Majesty.
it's your Royal Highness.
Oh.